Hi there, it's Dina with the Realize Foundation, and I'm back today with Michael to talk about his chapter in Scars to Stars Volume 2. So, hi, Michael, welcome.
Hey Dina, how are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to see you again. It's been a little bit since we talked, and your chapter is awesome. I'm really glad to have it as part of this book. I think it's a topic that most people um, think about or deal with, but don't talk about much. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. And the first one is, can you tell our audience a little bit about what your chapter is about?
yeah, sure. It's about facing the why of addiction. Just to lay it all out right off the bat, I was struggling with porn addiction for a long time, and the reason no one really taught me how to express my masculine energy, and in a world where we're told toxic masculinity, um, I would kind of hide that masculine part of me, and it led me to a point where I would just ask why. And when you peel back a few layers of why, it makes people very uncomfortable. So it's no wonder why I could never really find answers. But once I got to the point where I really started going within myself and trying to really, understand that we're all the same at the end of the day, that we have an animal body, we have, desires, and how to, connect with God and tie that in. It's how to be in the world, but not of it, indicators of shame and guilt can actually be very powerful lessons that we run away from shame and guilt, that we actually make it stronger. And when we kind of listen to that shame and guilt, and also to distinct that there's subjective shame and guilt, which is, the stories we tell ourselves, the lies that we can tell ourselves, that, maybe we learn from our parents or society, that, we're not good enough. And then I believe there's an objective truth, and that's, a moral compass, which isn't, people are afraid to be judged, but I think that at a certain level, we should aim for the best version of ourselves. And when we feel shame and guilt, and I think it's really authentic sense, it's a calling to say, hey, you know what? There's a better version of you that's available. And it's a really hard thing to do, to hold people to that, right? Because it, we always hear things like, well, nobody's perfect. Well, that is true. And I think, we've talked about this before, that I think it's important to give people that message at first, especially people who are dealing with suicidal thoughts, as we've talked about, because that's not the time to give tough love. That's the time to listen. And that's a time for people to share their pain without judging them. But I think after that point, that's the opportunity to kind of poke and prod and say, hey, you know what? You're not being the strongest version of yourself. And this is an opportunity to grow. And that's what I was really looking for, right? I was really looking for somebody to do that. And then I just faced myself, and now I'm in a position where I'm doing that for other people.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think your story, the way you wrote it, can apply to many situations. I know you talk about your situation with porn, but I think the way you wrote it, it could apply to other addictions in the world and in other um situations that people might find themselves in. It might not be the same as you, but similar to what you were dealing with, and how you dealt with it could also help them, even if it's a different situation. Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's who knows what else
It could
what
be
else.
anything that feels good, right? Anything that
Yeah.
feels good can end up enslaving us and entrapping us. And it's to live in both of the, like, to enjoy the soda, enjoy the ice cream. But remember, that's the same thing that can entrap you, and to see it for what it is rather than, oh, I'm bad, I shouldn't eat ice cream, I'm bad, I screwed up my diet again. No, it's see it for what it is, and appreciate that we live in this body, but it's also, it's anything that's temporary, and we try to make something that's permanent temporary, we end up entrapping ourselves.
That is so true. Um, so my second question for you is, how was your experience writing your story? And you know, I know you haven't really met a lot of the other authors or been in our community a lot yet, but normally I ask about that too because it's a built-in support system when you join Scars to Stars because there's so many people that are already involved and they're there and they understand what we're doing and they understand going through things and needing support, and it's become an amazing community, and I can't wait for you to meet everybody.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, full transparency, this is the first time I've ever written a book, and when we when you had told, I had a couple of days when you told me, I just had a couple of days to write it, so I just kind of just wrote it down. I even hit the amount. It was a little shorter than it was supposed to be, but it was really good. And just before we started speaking, I was saying, that this is something that it was an opportunity for me to really get my thoughts down on paper. It's a short story, but I think it's something that really everyone should do, because as you start writing down, it's really a process of being able to clarify your thoughts. I would write something, and then it's you get them down on paper. So it was really, for me, it was a great experience, and I look forward to doing that again in the future. But yeah, I think for me, I think one of the biggest things that I try to do is try to inspire people to do something. Like you can buy 1,000 books. I have a lot of books I haven't read. Oh, I have this book. I have a whole bunch of books here, but I haven't read all of them because I think it's really important that you are the author of your story. So your story is important. Whoever you are watching this, my story is important. Dina's story is important. That just start writing it down, because I think it's so easy to become the observer. You're sitting on the sidelines, right? I just wrote this. I should be the testament that you can write something. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to publish it tomorrow, but just write it down and share it with somebody in your life. And it's something that I think can really, really help. And it's inspired me to take the next step and write even more. So,
Oh, good. I'm so glad. It's
yeah.
it's true, and I was saying to Michael before we got on here is that, people told me for years I should journal, and I kept saying, "I don't have time for that." And when COVID happened, I started journaling, like, religiously, and it changed everything for me. It helped me get my thoughts out of my head where I wasn't, I was constantly, I don't know if it's my anxiety or what, but I constantly think of the same things over and over and over and over. It's like making to-do lists over and over, so I don't forget something. And when I started journaling, it really helped me with that anxious energy around all the things I needed to do and all the things on my plate. And and then it turned into, writing. I had written a chapter in a couple books before COVID, and those were really hard for me because it was the first time I had written, and I was like, I don't know what people want to hear. Like, I don't know what I should say, and so it's been a journey for me in the writing arena. And I did write a chapter in this book, which um, was a little different because I'd never written anything so personal, but I think it's healing. And I think once we free ourselves of whatever it is inside that we've been hiding, whatever that is, once we free ourselves of hiding something, it's a whole different world because we all think we're alone. We think nobody could have ever been through what we've been through, and it's just not true. There's so many people in the world that when you step up with this book and you put your story out there, you're going to have people coming out of the woodwork telling you, I've been through that too. I have a similar story. I and it's crazy because we all are in our little box and we think we're all alone and there's no help and there's no support and nobody could ever understand. And that's kind of what our whole foundation is about, is reaching people with these stories so they know they're not alone and they're not the only one that's been in this situation.
Yeah, see, yeah, I'm getting I literally got goosebumps as you're saying that, because yeah, I wrote a little bit in this chapter about David Goggins, who has been a really
Hmm.
big influence for me. And just for those of you who don't know David Goggins, he is someone who has, I mean, he competes in 200-mile races. He ran a 100-mile race 8 weekends in a row. So a total of 800 miles broken down 100. And it wasn't so much like, oh, wow, like I want to run that many miles. It was like, what makes someone do that? Right. And that's what really is sort of fascinating me. And he says the same thing that you just said is that, this whole world, it's just one big head game. And once you realize that, judgment from exterior, it's just people. And this is why I try to tie in biblical principles in a way that, like, and I'm still trying to understand it myself. I don't want to just, there's a difference between religion, I believe, and religionism, Sunday going Christians. That when you get to the core, you realize everyone's you. You get to that place where um, you you don't I think it's such a power to get to a place where you don't care what anyone thinks, but it's not like a code. It's not like you don't care about other people, but the truth is that there's people going to judge you and they're going to bully you. And to be in a place where you can own your story without it becoming like, a soap opera too, right? Because
Yeah.
I think that with every there's a lot of like, no knock on Dr. Phil, but like there's too much drama too, right? So it's like to share your story, not for getting attention, but to
Mhm.
connect with other people that you don't, when people like try to judge you, it's almost that you can yeah, that's part of my story. I had to mess up. Like it's just a matter of fact. I think at first it becomes like, hey, I got to open my heart and share this. But at a certain level, it's just like, no, it's kind of like it's like Christ talks about a sword of truth. It's like this is the truth. I have nothing to hide with it, right?
Right.
And yeah, I think that 100% what you said is that we think that we're different than other people,
Hmm.
and we're really not. It's just
Hmm.
once we understand that, then we also have the ability to confront other people, right? Because I think that's one of the things that is really important too. Is that instead of I think we protect victims, but I think we should strengthen victims of people who are bullied as well, right? We have to have the ability to, I think, have teeth and stand up for ourselves, because the world can be cold,
Yeah.
and when people are bullying, we need to stand up to bullies and realize that there's a bully and a victim within all of us. And once you
Mhm.
know that, then it's like you become kind of invulnerable through
Mhm.
absolute vulnerability.
That's a really good point. And to what you were saying earlier, um, I just have to share. I feel like I'm supposed to share this. Is that I was silent about my failed suicide attempt for 23 years, and I know you know that, but
Yeah,
I think that I was petrified of anyone knowing about that, of talking about it. And in 2018, I lost a friend to suicide that I'd known for 20 years. And if any of you have followed me, you probably know this story. But the point of it is when my friend died, it wasn't easy, but I was in a position where in my heart and my head, there was no way I could stay silent because I could never be in a situation like that again. I could never be in a situation where someone I was my friend and I cared about died and didn't know what I knew and could have shared to help. And that moment changed everything for me because it was no longer about me and what people thought about me. It was about saving someone that I cared about.
yeah,
And it changed everything. And I think that sometimes we have to have a reason like that to speak up about our story that is very personal. And sometimes we just get to the point where we've healed from it and we're willing to share it. I don't think at that point I was healed from it because I had never talked about it. So COVID was a blessing in disguise for me because it gave me that time to really process it and really understand what I had been through and why. And I had to even talk to friends to even remember things because I had blocked it out for so long. But it's like you are in a situation where you feel like you might could have done something, but you didn't do the things that would have made it possible. I don't know
yeah.
how to explain it, but it really did change my outlook on life and my outlook on myself and how other people see me. And I didn't care anymore,
Yeah,
which is
that just makes.
crazy because my whole life, all I wanted to do was prove myself to everyone.
Mm. Yeah, that makes me think of it's so funny. If you asked me 10 years ago if I'd be like saying Christ as much as I was now, I'd be like, okay, ridiculous. Like, but it
Mhm.
makes me I just keep thinking of the wisdom of Christ that like one of the things that he says is if you don't bring out what's within you will destroy you. And to me that has two meanings. Is one is that we all have pain and that when we bring that out within us as we're speaking of this, like you're helping other people. So, you know, you're helping other people. It's completely like no words are going to fix the pain that you feel, right? So I mean it's already happened. There's nothing we can do about it now, but what we're doing now is there's people who this is going to save people's lives right now. So it's a I don't want to say a blessing in disguise. You don't want to anyone, but when you look at through the world through a pure eyes, realize that everything that bad happens in life can be a blessing and the opposite too. That's why I say the ice cream, right? The ice cream analogy that we try to feel good, but those things can end up making us feel bad. So rather than seeking feeling good, seek fulfillment, which is that's peeling
Yeah.
back a lot of the layers why we do what we do.
Hmm.
But yeah, that idea that it's always stuck with me. That's what made me start my YouTube channel and engage more in this is that if you don't bring out what's within you will destroy you because that guilt and pain, it's not a bad guilt and pain are not a bad thing. It's a bad place to live, right? Because and when you speak with someone who is going through suicidal thoughts, what I've realized is that I think if most people, again, if most people are honest, everybody's going to get to a place where like, why am I even living? But whether they act on it or they speak it out, everybody is going to have that thought. I believe at one point in their life, why am I doing what I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
Why am I at this job? Why am I whatever the why is, right? And when they start asking for help from other people, a lot of people are so built in that they haven't faced that question too. So now we're getting a feedback system from a whole bunch of people who haven't asked the why they're doing what they're doing. They're
Hmm.
just this is what I do and this is how I do it, not why am I doing what I'm doing. So at a certain point they get feedback like, why am I even in this world anymore? Nobody has the answers, right? So when you're dealing with somebody who has that, that's the opportunity to be real. When someone's sharing their pain, share your pain and say, "Hey, I'm going through this too." Because then there's feedback. Hey, you know what? I'm not alone. I'm not the only one going through this pain. People are asking the same questions, and the worst thing I think people can do when they're faced with people who are going through those suicidal thoughts is the cliche answer. It's okay. Don't worry. There's people who have worse situations than you. The best thing you can do is share your pain, share your dark side, share that piece of you that, and put yourself out there because that's to
Hmm.
me, we're hungry for authenticity. We're not hungry for the answer. The time for the feel good answer is done. I think we need
Yeah.
if we want a real love is real. It's not nice words. It's being real. So
I agree. I think I just recorded what we're calling the Hope course on the main page of our website, and it's free. It's just 4 videos of me talking. It's like less than 30 minutes to watch them all, and it's really talking about that kind of stuff. And part of it is, excuse me, how do we support somebody we care about going through that time? And it is really important not to say you should just be happy, you
yeah,
have so much to be thankful for, you have, and all of that might be true, but that's not helping the situation. And I think a lot of people, when somebody's having suicidal thoughts, they shut down because they don't want to say the wrong thing, they don't know what to say. So I'm hoping that our videos and our conversations and community is helping spread the word of how do we support someone like that. And it really is just listening and being there, and whatever they need. Maybe it's like, let's go on a hike, let's do a puzzle, let's watch a movie. It could just be being together and talking about something that they're looking forward to. Because Johnny Crowder, who started Cope Notes, he told me one time, he's like, I postponed my death one time because I wanted to go to a concert. So, like, there's a real thing about finding something in the future they're excited about, because then they want to stick around. So I know that's kind of heavy, but it's very true. And I just want to end by saying that, realizefoundation.org, you can register for our book launch event. We have other events there you can register for. Most of them are virtual. We're going to do a first in-person one in Telluride in September, which we're going to announce soon. But our mission is to reduce the suicide rates, and that is through conversation, community, and personal story, which we think human connection is what saves people from suicidal ideation. And yes, we need all the resources that are out there. I'm not saying that we can replace a hotline or therapy, but we do believe that this is the best way to reach people in a struggle before they even get to suicidal ideation, in order to connect with our community and find the support they need to get through whatever adversity there is, and keep them from going down that dark road. So visit our website, donate if you can, join us for the book launch. It'll be on September 22nd at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be a couple hours. You'll get to meet all the authors and our board, and we'll get to do a few exercises and have some build some community with breakouts and stuff like that. So we hope you'll join us. And thank you, Michael, for being here. I'm gonna take us both out of this stream so I can leave you with a graphic of the book. And we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.